Do you know what the most expensive comic book is from the 1970s? There's no way you can guess the top spot because I didn't know. And if I didn't know, you didn't know. Some of these comic books are not only worth hundreds, not even worth thousands, not even tens of thousands. They are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you better get off your butt right now. Stop watching this video altogether and run down to your basement. In fact, they probably won't even be in your basement because these are from the 70s. So go over to your dad's house, go over to your uncle's house, go to your grandparents' house. That's right. Head over there, go into their basement, kick them out of the house and say, hey, I need to remodel real quick. Go to the old folks' home and check their homes because you might just stumble upon some of these books that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, all these books are going to be actual sales numbers, and they're all going to be CGC 9.8, unless I couldn't find any data, because some of these have never sold in a 9.8, so they could be worth millions of dollars. And if you're looking to buy some of these comic books, you can head over to my website at collectorscomics.com, where we have all these comics and more. And if you have these comics and you're looking to sell them, we'll sell them for you just 5%. That is much cheaper than everywhere else. Let's get into the video. So let's start this list at, say, 500 or 550. Let's do that. That sounds like a good number. And there is so many on this list, so buckle up. It's going to be a long video. So first is we got Black Panther #1 in a 9.8. It is currently selling for $550. This was his first solo book. Next is we got Captain Britain, first appearance of Captain Britain, and a #1 is selling for in a 9.8, $600. Nova #1, the very first appearance of Nova, a 9.8 is selling for $700. Miss Marvel 18, this is the first appearance of Mystique, and in a 9.8 you're looking at about $750. Doctor Strange #1, now he first appeared in Strange Tales, and then it went all the way up to 168, where then he continued the series at 169, but then they went up a little bit, and then they're like, hey, let's start him over at #1, and so this is that one. $850. Avengers 92, Neil Adams cover and the beginning of the Kree and Skrull Wars. And a 9.8 looking about $900. ElfQuest #1 in a 9.8, $900. Iron Man 128, that classic cover, Demon in the Bottle. This is a great cover that people love. I've seen it all the time being cover homaged, cover swiped on all different comic books, even to today. You're looking at $900 for this comic. Daredevil #158. This is when Frank Miller first started on Daredevil and did a great run during this time. A 9.8, you're looking at about $1,000. Marvel Spotlight #28. This is the first solo book of Moon Knight. It goes for $1,000 in a 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 120. This is where he battles the Hulk. Obviously he loses because the Hulk is strong as there is, but $1,100 for a 9.8. Joker #1, that's right, Joker, a villain story. This is where he gets his first book as a villain, $1,100 for a 9.8. War is Hell, #9. You're probably thinking, what is this? This is the first appearance of Death. That's right, Death. Weird concept, but I guess it's the first appearance of Death. Anyways, $1,100. Avengers 89. Well, if you want to see Captain Marvel get electrocuted, that's what this cover is, $1,150. Avengers 144, first appearance of Patsy Walker as Hellcat, $1,200 for a 9.8. Conan 23, the first cameo appearance of Red Sonja, $1,200 for a 9.8. And Thing #1, his first and own book. How about that? He got big enough where he got his own comic book, $1,250. And if you want to see some of your favorite superheroes shooting up heroin, well, look no further than Green Lantern #85, where Speedy is addicted to heroin and he's shooting up. This is a great cover. People love this cover. And it goes for $1,300 in a 9.8. Conan 24, this is the first full appearance of Red Sonja. You're looking at about $1,350. And who remembers George Lucas' greatest movie of all time? No, it was not Star Wars. No, it was not Indiana Jones. It was actually Howard the Duck. That is right. That was his greatest movie ever made. And Howard the Duck first appeared in Fear #19, and that goes for $1,350. And fun fact, Howard the Duck the movie was the first Marvel comic book movie to hit a theatrical release since Captain America in 1944. Strange Tales 180, first appearance of Gamora, $1,500. Giant-sized creatures #1, first appearance of Tigra, $1,550. Captain Britain #8, the first appearance of Psylocke. That's right, she's British. $1,600 for a 9.8. Marvel Preview number 4, first appearance of Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. That is right, $1,600 for a 9.8. Air Pirates Funnies number 1, $1,700 for a 9.8. And you're probably thinking, what is so special about Air Pirates Funnies number 1? Well, in this case, the people that created this, they got sued by Disney. And they basically said like, hey, you can't make this. This is copyright infringement. So they're like, screw you. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways. And so they made a number 2. Then they went into a lawsuit with Disney themselves, which they lost and ended up going penniless because the guy just didn't want to quit. He kept on fighting and saying it was fair use, but Disney was like, no, it is not fair use. You cannot have Mickey Mouse doing drugs. All-Star Comics number 58, first appearance of Power Girl. And we all know why Power Girl is very special. $1,750. Astonishing Tales number 25, first appearance of Deathlock. $1,800 for a 9.8. Giant Size Chillers number 1, $1,800 for a 9.8. Avengers number 83, first appearance of Valkyrie. $1,850. New Gods number 1. This is during the time when Jack Kirby decided to go over to DC and create a whole new universe. $1,900 for a 9.8. Foom number 2. Now you think, what is Foom number 2? It stands for Friends of Old Marvel. Now in this issue, they had an art contest and a person drew a picture of Wolverine before Wolverine ever came out. And he drew a picture of a guy called Wolverine where he had a metal skeleton underneath and had healing factor. Now, a lot of people speculate that Marvel just pretty much stole this kid's idea and then created Wolverine, but we'll never really know. But nonetheless, it is $2,000. Captain Marvel 26, this is an early appearance of Thanos, $2,050. Amazing Spider-Man 149, first appearance of the Jackal, this is the start of the whole clone thing, $2,200. Forever People number 1, this was the start of Jack Kirby's other universe. $2,200. X-Men 120, first appearance of Alpha Flight, $2,200. DC Superstars number 11, first appearance of the Huntress, $2,250. Amazing Spider-Man 119, this is where he first starts battling the Hulk, and he was about to lose anyways, $2,300. Amazing Spider-Man 194, first appearance of the Black Cat, $2,300. Defenders number 1, $2,400 for a 9.8. Marvel Premiere 15, this is the first appearance of Iron Fist, $2,500. Archie Comics number 271. So you probably think this is the first appearance of someone. No. Maybe a cameo. No. Maybe a great cover by a cool artist. No. Well, is it at least an origin story? Or a start of an artist or a writer? No. The whole reason it's up here on this list is because people like it because they think the cover is funny because it talks about a pearl necklace. And it is $2,600 in a 9.8. Daredevil 131, first appearance of Bullseye, $2,750. Jungle Action 5, this is the first solo book of Black Panther, $2,750. Special Marvel Edition 15, first appearance of Shang-Chi, this is $2,800 for a 9.8. Marvel Premiere number 28, first appearance of Legion of Monsters, $3,000 for a 9.8. Godzilla number 1. Now you're thinking, Godzilla number 1? I don't think it's that expensive. You're right, it's $400. But during this time, they had a 35-cent variant. Now you're like, what is a 35-cent variant? At the time, it was 30 cents everywhere. And Marvel was like, we want to raise our prices, but we don't think people will actually buy our comic books. So in some certain areas in the United States, just a few states, they decided to change the price on a few copies where they put 35 cents to see if kids and adults would buy them at the upgraded price from 30 cents to 35 cents. Well, it seemed they did buy the price at 35 cents. They didn't care, so then they just made them 35 cents. So they did buy it at 35 cents, and so Marvel was like, okay, they'll buy it. And so they just raised the prices. But you can get a 35-cent variant, and it is $3,100. Hulk number 141, first appearance of Doc Samson, $3,200 for a 9.8. Wonder Woman 204, first appearance of Nebula, $3,300 for a 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man number 96. Now, what's so special about this book? This is not first appearance of anything. Well, if you look at the top corner, you'll notice something missing. During this time, they had the Comics Code Authority. And what that was this little stamp. And because back in the 1950s, some teens started killing some people in real life. They burned a homeless man alive. Now, this doctor, the psychologist, Dr. Frederick Wortham, said the reason why kids are killing these homeless people and being bad in general is because of comic books. Comic books are evil and they need to be burned. And so they actually did do that. Mothers around the globe decided to burn their comic books because they thought they're evil. And the comic companies, a lot of them went out of business, but some of them were like, hey, please, let's not cancel these good comics. We'll make them for kids. We'll make them wholesome. And so they decided to come up with their own little rating system that shows that they are wholesome, that they only talk about good stuff. And that's how they got the Comics Code Authority. But during this time, in the 1970s, Stan Lee was like, you know what? I want to make comic books that are geared towards problems that are going on today. And right now, we have a big problem with drugs. I want to do a drug story, and I want to put it in Spider-Man. But whoa, Spider-Man's for kids. We can't allow that with the Comics Code Authority. And he said, screw you, Comics Code Authority. I don't care. I'm doing it anyways. So there's a couple issues where it didn't have that Comics Code Authority. Stan Lee wanted to write one about how Peter had to deal with his best friend, Harry, getting addicted to drugs. And that's why this one is special. And that is why this one costs $33.50 for a 9.8. Hulk 182. This is a third appearance, like a cameo appearance of Wolverine, $3,400 for a 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 122. This is where Spider-Man finds out that the Green Goblin killed Gwen Stacy and says, screw you, Green Goblin. I'm going to kill you. And he does, kind of. Well, he kills himself. Anyways, $3,500. Avengers 112, first appearance of the Mantis, $3,500. Swamp Thing number 1. This is the first appearance of Swamp Thing, even though he first appeared in House of Secrets number 92. This is a completely different Swamp Thing. That Swamp Thing doesn't exist anymore. This is the new Swamp Thing, $3,500. X-Men number 100. This is where the new and the old X-Men duke it out to see who's going to be the best X-Men, who is actually going to be the one that Professor X decides to take under his wing and live in the X-Mansion. And of course, we all know who the winners were. And you can find out who the winners are if you just read the comic book for $3,500 in a 9.8. Spider-Man number 100, $3,700 in a 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 121, this is the death of Gwen Stacy, $3,750. Batman 244, Neil Adams cover, $3,850. Mr. Miracle, first appearance of Mr. Miracle, $4,000 for a number 1 in a 9.8. X-Men 107, first appearance of the Starjammers, $4,000. Marvel Premiere number 1. This is the first time Warlock gets his own book. It's that black cover, hard to get in a 9.8, $4,100. Amazing Spider-Man 135, second appearance of the Punisher, $4,300. X-Men 101, first appearance of Phoenix, $4,300. Now this one's kind of interesting because there is no known sales of a 9.8. But there is a sale of a 9.6. Marvel Spotlight number 2, first appearance of Werewolf by Night, $4,500 for a 9.6. So what is a 9.8 worth? I don't know, $10 million. Sure, why not? Tomb of Dracula number 1, first appearance of Dracula. And the reason why they actually can put Dracula in a comic book is because the Comics Code Authority didn't allow vampires. That's right, they wouldn't allow vampires. But the comic book publishers were, you know what? We're going to quit this Comic Code Authority unless you give us vampires. And they said, fine, we'll give you vampires and werewolves and ninjas. That's right. And the undead. So during this time, that's how you got Werewolf by Night, Dracula, and a couple others that are on this list. $4,700. Batman 222. This is the first appearance of the Beatles in the Batman story, drawn by Neil Adams. $4,800. Amazing Adventures 11. This is the first time the Beast becomes furry. That's right, he wasn't furry before, and now he is furry. And he was gray, and then later he turned blue. But $5,000 for 9.8. Batman 234, this is the more modern version of Two-Face that we know today, drawn by Neil Adams, $5,000 for a 9.8. Ghost Rider number 1, $5,000 for a 9.8. Demon number 1, first appearance of the Demon, $5,600. Fantastic Four 112. This is where the Hulk battles a thing. Classic cover, all black. Super hard to get in a 9.8 because of that all black cover. $5,700. Amazing Spider-Man 124. First appearance of Man-Wolf. $6,000. Jungle Action number 6. First appearance of Killmonger. He was in the Black Panther movie. $6,000 for a 9.8. Strange Tales 169. First appearance of Brother Voodoo. You're looking at about $6,600 for a 9.8. Iron Man number 55. There's a ton of first appearances in this, such as Thanos, Drax, Star Fox, and a couple others, and we're looking at about $6,800 for a 9.8. Marvel feature number 1, first appearance of the Defenders. This was a comic book that ran for a very long time when they went to the Defenders on their own. $6,900. X-Men 64, first appearance of Sunfire, the first Marvel Japanese superhero. $6,900. Batman 232, first appearance of Ra's al Ghul. You're looking at $7,100 for a 9.8. Avengers number 93, great cover by Neil Adams. Kree, the Skrull War, $7,200. Green Lantern number 87, first appearance of John Stewart, who becomes the Green Lantern, and he's also going to be in the new TV show, The Green Lanterns. $7,200 for a 9.8. Marvel Team Up number 1, all black cover, really hard to get, $7,500 for a 9.8. Conan number 1, first appearance of Conan, you're looking at about $7,800 for a 9.8. Detective Comics 405, first appearance of the League of Assassins, $7,800 for a 9.8. Savage Tales number 1, first appearance of Man-Thing, $9,000 for a 9.8. Superman 233, great cover by Neil Adams, $9,000 for a 9.8. Tomb of Dracula number 10, first appearance of Blade, $9,000 for a 9.8. Now this is where things start getting pretty expensive, and they get expensive very quickly. We are hitting the threshold of $10,000. And first up is we got 2000 AD number 2. And you're probably thinking, what is 2000 AD number 2? Well, it is a comic book from the 70s. It is the first appearance of a great comic book character, Judge Dredd. Now, there is no known sales of a 9.8, but there is a 9.6 for $11,000. So what is a 9.8 worth? Probably $50 to $75 million, I would imagine. Star Wars number 2 through 4. Now, that's a very odd thing to say there, David, 2 through 4. But remember I was talking about the 35-cent variant? Well, there's 35-cent variants of these. And these for a 9.8 will run around $12,000 for a 9.8 if you have the 35-cent variant. Now, there is the 30-cent variant, but you need the 35-cent variant. Cerebus number 1. That's right, that aardvark. This at one point was the longest running independent comic book of all time until Spawn beat it. But nonetheless, a number 1 in a 9.4, not even a 9.8, $12,500. All-Star Western number 10 in a 9.8, that is the first appearance of Jonah Hex. You're looking at about $13,800. Hulk 180, first cameo appearance of Wolverine. He is on the last panel, $15,000 for a 9.8. Iron Fist 14, first appearance of Sabretooth. If you have the non-35-cent variant, you're looking at about $2,000. But if you have a 9.8, $100 million. I don't know what a 9 is worth. None has ever sold. But if you have a 9.6, you're looking at $15,000 for a 9.6. Marvel Preview number 7, first appearance of Rocket Raccoon. That's right, that was his first appearance. $15,600 for a 9.8. These are actual sales. Actual sales. That's what they sold for. Amazing Spider-Man 129. This is the first appearance of Punisher. That's right, the first appearance. And it goes for $17,000 in a 9.8. Foom number 10. You remember Friends of Old Marvel? Remember that old magazine? Well, anyways, Giant Size X-Men number 1 is technically the first appearance of the new X-Men, but they actually predated this in this very comic book. That's right, they talked about them first, talked about this new up-and-coming X-Men characters coming out. $17,500 if you have a 9.8 of this. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen 134, first appearance of Darkseid, $17,500. Werewolf by Night number 32, first appearance of Moon Knight, $18,000. But what's funny is you'd think that would be the most expensive in the run. Nope. Werewolf by Night number 1 in a 9.8 is $19,000. That is right, because it's as hard to get in a 9.8. Batman 227, which I have put on so many other lists about you should buy this book because it's going up. This is not a first appearance. This is a great cover by Neil Adams, and it's actually a homage cover from Detective 31 by Bob Kane, which would be a lot more expensive. But nonetheless, $19,200 for this comic book. Detective 411, first appearance of Talia al Ghul, you know, who Batman knocked up and got Damian Wayans. $24,000 for a 9.8. That great of a cover. It's not like this, you know, Batman 227. This is Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, 106. That's right. What is this? How is this so expensive? $24,000 for this comic book. So this comic is very controversial because on the cover, Lois Lane goes, you know what? I'm a reporter and I want to report on what it's like to be a black woman. So Superman's like, hey, you know, I just happen to have this machine that can switch you from a white woman to a black woman. So change it in a black woman so she can be a reporter. And that is why it's $24,000 for a 9.8. Batman 251, great cover by Neil Adams of the Joker. This is when the Joker changes from that more campy to more murderous, cynical, just villainous Joker. $26,400. Giant size X-Men #1, first appearance of all the new X-Men. Now I know I said the Friends of Old Marvel, but that was kind of like more of like a preview, not so much the first comic book. $26,500. Also the second appearance of Wolverine. Now, I bet you won't guess this one. Yeah, this is probably going to be pretty hard to guess. Night Nurse #1. First appearance of Night Nurse. That's right. $29,000 if you have a #1 and a 9.8. That is crazy. Detective 400. First appearance of Man-Bat. $31,000 for a 9.8. Green Lantern 76. What is so special about this book? Well, this is the first time that Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil started on Green Lantern. They're like, okay, so why is that special? Well, the reason why it's special, this is actually the beginning of the Bronze Age, because this is the first time that comic book artists and writers actually grew up reading comic books, and they're like, you know what, I want to grow up and I want to be a comic book artist. And so they got into it, and then they're like, you know what, none of these comic books really, you know, adhere to me as a grown up. So they started writing and drawing more grown up themes in comic books. And they're like, you know what, comic books are no longer for kids, they're for adults. And that's what started the Bronze Age. And if you have a 9.8 of this, $32,000. X-Men #94. This is when the new X-Men came over to the X-Men series. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the X-Men series was near cancellation. People really didn't like the X-Men series. And so after X-Men #66, they're like, oh, should we just cancel it? And like, well, it sells just enough. Why don't we just do reprints? So from X-Men 67 through 93, they just did reprints of previous X-Men, and they just kind of changed the cover a little bit, and it was like, okay, we're making a little bit of money. And then they got in the new X-Men, and so then you got new stories with the new X-Men, and so that is why it's $36,000. Star Wars #1. Everyone knows what Star Wars is. Anyways, if you have Star Wars #1, you're looking at about $3,000. $3,000. That doesn't make this list. What's going on? You're going backwards. Oh yes. The 35-cent variant. That's right, you can get a 35-cent variant. This is the most expensive 35-cent variant during this time. 35-cent variant. A 9.4 sold for $48,000. What is a 9.8 worth? It has to be worth at least $50 million. No, more than that. Probably $150 million for a 9.8. Probably $50 million for a 9.6, but $150 million for a 9.8. That is right. Very expensive. Okay, so now we're closing in the top 5. That is right, the top 5. We're already here. We already went through this huge list right here. The top 5. And I bet there's some that you can guess on here, but I bet you will not guess them all. Not at all. We got Hero for Hire #1. That's right, first appearance Luke Cage at $50,000. It's that black cover, very hard to get. Next is we got Hulk #181. That is right. First appearance of Wolverine. You probably thought, why isn't this first? Shouldn't this be first? Shouldn't this be the most expensive comic book in the 1970s? Well, you'd be wrong. You're looking at $72,000. That is what it's currently selling for. That is the most recent sales. Like all these are the most recent sales. All right. You're like, what's above Hulk 181? I have no idea. How about House of Secrets #92, first appearance of Swamp Thing, $84,000 for a 9.8. And here we go. Here is that top spot. #1, most expensive comic book from the 1970s. And you're probably thinking, I can't think of it. What could it possibly be? Now, if you remember, I've been saying something interesting about all black covers, that it's hard to get in a 9.8. And like most things, supply and demand. And there's not that many 9.8s out there, not that many. The ones that do come out as a 9.8 go for a lot of money. So here we go, at the number 1 spot. Marvel Spotlight number 5, first appearance of Ghost Rider. That is right, first appearance. And you rate for the price. What did I say the last one was? House of Secrets number 92. Last one sold for 9.8 was $84,000. So you're thinking Marvel Spotlight number 5, what is that, like 90? But you're like, dude, remember in the beginning of the video you said there are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So maybe it's like 105,000. Last sold Marvel Spotlight number 5, most recent sale, $360,000. That is right, over $250,000, on the way to be the $500,000. Might as well just make it $1 million. For a Marvel Spotlight number 5, first appearance of Ghost Rider. That is the most expensive comic book from the 1970s. But you're thinking to yourself, David, you counted wrong. You said just moments ago when we're in the last 5, but you only listed 4. But then you said Marvel Spotlight is the most expensive. How could that be? Did you count wrong? No. Are you dumb? Maybe. But there is a secret comic book that if you watch the show long enough, you'll know exactly what comic book it is. This one, dare I say, it's not $500,000. It's approaching $5 million for a 9.8. You're looking at Eternals number 1. That is right. That is the best comic book from the 70s. That is the number 1 selling comic book of all time. And that is literally probably going to be worth at least $500 million in the next year or two if you have a 9.8. Of course, I am joking. I always joke about the Eternals number 1. If you want an Eternals number 1, you want to know what's really worth in a 9.8, it's worth $300. That is right. It is worth $300. Anyways, let me know what you think of this list. Let me know if you have any of these comics on the list. I bet you do. I bet you do. And if you don't do, I bet you if you search those boxes high and low, go all around the globe, the searching, go on a quest. That's right. You need to go on a quest to find that book from the 1970s that is on this list, and you will find it. You will achieve your goals. And in any ways, have a good day.